do you feel like that the competition for the number 9 is out and out Balogun and then Pepi's second? Or do you feel like if Pepi continues to, because Pepi's going to score a ton of goals in the Eredivisie. There's no question. PSV are just so dominant. They create so many chances. His numbers, I think, will probably look better than Flo Balogun's. But I really love, and I love Pepi's movement too, but Balogun's run off that back shoulder, and especially when you're like maybe 20 yards out, top of the box, he just finds he scored a goal against Japan that looked very similar, right? Just created enough space to get a shot off and scored in that game. But I see him consistently do it for Monaco. Not to say that Ricardo Pepi doesn't do it, but I just wonder if you think it's a kind of a neck and neck race, Big Tones, or do you, before we hear from our resident number 9?
I said
what we're talking about.
Yeah, I said after the last match, right, the Japan match, I don't want to have recency bias. I think right now Balogun is the guy for the national team, but don't be surprised if we see Ricardo Pepi start, because as you said, the one thing he's going to have likely over Flo Balogun is he's probably going to score a heck of a lot more goals than Flo Balogun is this year, right? It's just the way their team is. They dominate their league. So he's going to have that. So the difference to me, Balogun wins in the category of runs in between shoulders of defenders, runs out wide. Pepi wins in the area of box presence, right? For me, like he's a guy, he's good in the air. He finds space. He's not a guy that has had to depend on his speed his whole life, because he's not like breakaway speed type guy. He's not slow by any stretch. But so that's the two things that for me like separate the two guys, or is different about the two guys. But in the end, if you got a Flo Balogun, let's say a Flo scores, I don't know, 10 goals this year, and then you got Ricardo Pepi who scores 25, 30 goals this year. Don't you think like Pochettino has a decision to make with those two guys? But I still tend to think Balogun has the edge right now, yeah, Jimmy.
Same.
But this isn't like a runaway right now for me.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot here. We got a question from Kevin, and then I want to hear from Chuck on this. Kevin says, what I want to hear is which striker will have the biggest impact in Champions League and the implications it has for the U.S. men's national team. I mean, the Champions League is the creme de la creme of competition. So if we saw Ricardo Pepi have a good game against Liverpool, that's where he ended up hurting his knee. In that game,
he's had a good game against Sevilla and Arsenal as well in the Champions League.
Right. So Ricardo Pepi, yes, of course, I think he's going to dunk on a lot of opponents this year in the Eredivisie. But when he can go and prove it, like we saw with Tillman, yes, he did it with PSV, but then all of a sudden he showed it in the Champions League as well. And Bayer Leverkusen's like, all right, this guy, we know he can hold his own. We're willing to pay the money that we did to get him, and I'm curious to see how Tillman does with Leverkusen as well. But back to the Nines, I think this is a good kind of. When Monaco's playing a good opponent, how is Balogun helping the team? How is he creating space?
Yeah.
How kind of chances is he getting? I think the Champions League is really going to be a nice barometer for both of these players.
Jim, it looks like I'm just going through Monaco's schedule right now. Juve, Real Madrid, Galatasaray, Paphos, Bodo Glimt, but then Tottenham, Man City. There's some games here. They got the PSG too.
Yeah.
Just think of the next one: Monaco, Man City, and Leverkusen, PSV. Both top competition for Pepi and Balogun. I love that. You could theoretically, you want to go 3-5-2, he could play the your two strikers, right?
Don't tease me. Don't tease me, Chuck. Don't tease
me. You know how I feel about two strikers. I would absolutely love to see it if we get that chance.
Do you think
those two play together, Chuck? Can those two play together?
I think
I was going to say
each other well.
Is that the contrast? Like, how's the contrast between those two? Because one could check in, one could run off the back shoulder, right?
I think there's a lot of value in one. Balogun already plays with two at Monaco, but I think there's a lot of value in a striker who can play alone in a single striker system, but also play with two. So Ricardo Pepi, if we can remember to start in MLS, he had that partnership with Jesus Ferreira, and they were lethal. Of course, that was in MLS, but getting used to playing with someone and understanding their movements and how one player can complement another. Same with Balogun now with Biarritz. I think they have a great combination. They move off each other well. There's some great flicks and dummies to each other. You can only do that if you're on the same wavelength. I would love to see Pepi and Balogun together on the pitch. At least we're talking about experimenting. That's the kind of experimenting I want to see, right? I don't know
But
if
then you sacrifice. If we go 3-5-2, let's go hypothetical here. So we have everybody's healthy. Jedi on the left, Dest on the right. You got a back three.
Christian would be the 10 in that scenario.
So Christian would be the 10, which means you only have two other central midfielders. So you have
Right.
Adams.
We only have two central midfielders now.
No, we have a box of 4.
Right now,
You have a box of 4, 2 10s,
right,
and
but
2
they're
6s.
2 10s, but they're high, and you're asking a lot of those two deep lying midfielders for covering ground, covering space.
Yeah, you'd have more of like a traditional 6-8-10, in a 3-5-2. So
but how do you
Tyler,
think that would look?
Third? I mean, I think it'd be fun. For me, you'd have to have that as an option. Let's say we're down in a game. What are we doing? And okay, if we're going to throw 2 strikers on, the guys need to know what that looks like, how to move, where the space is going to be.
Talk about countering. If let's say you're playing a better opponent, you are going to have to defend, get behind the ball. You need players to counter with. If you told me, hey, we're gonna play super defensive, we had that block of 5, the 3 center backs, the 2 deep lying midfielders, the wing backs come back. So now you got almost like a 5.
Actually, a fluid 4, a back 5.
But when you counter, whether it's through Anthony Robinson or on the right side, you have Dest or Weah, whoever. If you're playing this formation, it's going to be Dest or Weah competing for that right wing back spot. Countering with those 3 ahead of you, I like my chances.
I also like too that if we knew we were down in a game, I guess it's a little bit different because that's a little bit more of a counterattacking situation. But if we're down in a game and you knew that you could throw a Pepi, who I think is good in the air, you had Balogun, who could still give you that little bit of quickness, right? He might not get on the end of all the crosses, but he can still do the job too. But if you just said, hey, Jedi and Serginho, just start whipping in balls from deep. Now, Serginho likes to kind of beat somebody before he whips the ball in, and Jedi's done better, I think, of hitting deeper crosses over the last couple of years in particular. Has really added that to his game. But I just feel like, cool. Now, like at some point, you have to have that urgency. We're just going more direct. And I like having the 2 strikers because then one can lay off to the other one. I don't know. It's interesting. And I wonder.
I think that game suits Pepi better. Like
I
if
agree.
You're just going to whip balls in the box.
Agree.
Here's maybe the question. What playing with 2 strikers, but what fits the personnel of this group better? Forget the rest of the team right now. Either the 2, like what this game was Pulisic and Zendejas, and then Balogun, or playing with 2 strikers and 1 behind.
I would say if you play with 1, then the double 10s offer a lot of support. But we've seen from Greg Berhalter all the way to the early Pochettino days with this national team, if that 9 plays by himself and no real support, they're on an island. They don't get service. The only way that they get involved is if the team wins something in the attacking half off the counter press and they're there, or it's like a free kick, something kind of nothing, no playing patterns really get the 9 involved without that support. When you talk about the double 10s, when you're playing in that 3 box midfield, to give some support. I would always say 2 striker system, they always have each other, always. And then you're counting on whipped in balls in the space, 1 checks, 1 goes in behind. So you're creating that space with each other. But what best suits this team, it's probably 1 striker. And those 2 guys, Pepi and Balogun, are competing with each other to be that 1, which also kind of lights a flame. Hey, you got 60, 65 minutes to get it going. So you either
I'll add to
do it, or in the back of your mind, if I'm not at 100% at every single moment, the next guy behind me is in form. He's playing every week, and he will take my spot if I don't chip in the way that I'm supposed to.
One thing I'll add too, from a tactical perspective, is if you're asking the 9 to check back to hold up, which is fine, it's going to have to happen, right? We're going to need that hold up play so we can transition meaningfully. Not every time, obviously, they can check in and then try to hit in behind, but we need some depth. So if the number 9 does drop in, then one of the 10s there has to be some verticality so that the back line knows, oh shit, Balogun's dropping in, but now Christian's about to make the run in behind.
That's what Christian's good at. Christian.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why Christian's really important in that phase of the game, and also having that recognition and making it happen. With 2 strikers, I wonder one or the other would have to do that, right? One checks and then one is creating that verticality. So
Well,
yeah,
both-
it's
both-
a good problem to have, and I like that we
Yeah.
have multiple options to discuss. And maybe it's opposition based, right? We're playing against Spain. Okay, we need to do X. Or hey, we're playing
Right.
against a team we should in theory dunk on. We can try to maybe exploit them in this way. So I like that we have some versatility and some different options, as opposed to saying we just have Jedi Robinson at left
Well,
back.
this is the thing.
That's
Jimmy.
That's it. We only have Jedi Robinson.
I've seen people play with two strikers, but have Christian be one of the two strikers. And Pulisic is not a player that play with his back to goal. So for me, when he's high, if he's playing in that second role, you're forcing that one other striker to always do that work, to always be the guy to hold the center back or someone on his back and play with his back to goal. That makes it a little bit more predictable. When you have two, both can do that job. And I think Balogun and Pepi both can. The reason why that would work is because they both can play with their back to goal, both can check, and both can get in behind. So that's the unpredictability for a back line, whether you're playing against a back five or a back four. It makes it that much more difficult.
Chuck wants that Dwight York, Andy Cole.
Hey,
combination.
don't we all? Don't we all?
The best.
The Bergkamp Henry, the Cole York. I mean,
yeah.
Think about the best
Henry.
tandems in
Chuck, to your point, I saw Pulisic play in that second striker role a few times. It doesn't work for him, right? It just doesn't work. It's not where he feels comfortable. Doesn't bring out the best in what he does, right? The best in what he does is get the ball and attack people and attack space and then bring other people into the game. Much like the goal with Balogun, right? Receive a ball, you turn, you run at the defense, you wait for a run, you make a good pass. We saw this weekend in his substitute appearance with Milan. As soon as he got in, he was dangerous the entire I don't know what it was, 20 minutes or so, 25 minutes, whatever it was. He was really dangerous in the game. Had a weaving run in the box that he thought maybe could have drew a penalty kick and didn't, but that's his game. You turn his back to the goal and you just change the way it looks for him in any moment. And that's not where he's certainly not going to thrive in that.
What I like about him playing a potential 10 in a 3-4-2-1 setup that we had against Japan in particular is that he can float a little bit more as a 10. He could go wide, right? Or he could pinch in, or he could find those half spaces and turn like he did to set up Flo Balogun on that goal. So,
which would have been, when we talk about that 3-4-2-1 or 3-5-2, think about playing against the Panama, where they lock down the center of the park. It's impossible to play. The lines are tight. That's now you're starting to create some mismatches in the wide areas. You break them down. You're coming inside. Now you have options. I would have loved to see that type of experiment against a team like that. But hey, we still have some windows.
Oh, look at you. You got to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. So if you want more average to good content, then you know where to go find it. Go peruse our channel, then hit like, then hit subscribe, and of course, turn on your notifications so that you never miss a show. We'll see you next time.